Labrīt. Kā tev iet? Oh, can you come up? There you go. Come up. Come on. That'll do. Go back. Nigel, I'll check it for you as we go in through the morning. We'll just keep checking that things are there. I want to check that I'm actually in the right room with the right people before we kick off. Like Nigel, we travel quite a bit and we're in different countries, different places all the time. And I get a little confused from time to time too. And I want to check I am in the right room with the right people. So I'm going to just check by a quick show of hands, how many people here seriously would like more clients, more sales, and more profits? Quick show of hands. Okay, that's the wrong answer. Let me ask it a different way. Or let me ask you this, how many of you have, within your businesses, how many of you have what I would recognise as time wasters? The tire kickers, the people that take up all your time, all your energy, and don't order on time, don't pay on time. You've got people like that? Okay, so here's a reality check. It's your own silly fault. I don't mean to offend you, but it's your own fault. That's what's happening. So let me ask the question again, because this is what's important. The devil here is in the detail. Who would like more of the right kind of clients who will buy from you at the right kind of time and allow you to make a good profit for what you do? Okay, that's the one with all the hands should be going up on that one. They don't want to scare you. I want to talk about how to thrive, not just survive. I hope I managed to get my Latvian correct here. My eldest son has been dating Ruta for nearly 4 years now. She's from Riga. And I gave her the title of my book of How to Thrive, Not Just Survive, and asked her if she would give me the translation. Did that work? Because she gave me about 5 different versions of what it could be, which is always confusing for me. But I want to talk about how to thrive, not just survive. But also, talking with Ruta, I said I'm going to go and talk to a group of business people in Latvia, and we want to talk about how to really get success out of what they do. So, well, the Latvian people they're a little on the quiet side. I think Nigel may have proved a couple of cases here that you like to sit back and listen maybe a little bit. But Ruta's saying, no, but they're a very friendly, warm bunch of people. I said, but Ruta, I'd much rather just tell them how it is and just not pull any punches, just tell them straight with stuff that would help their business. But I was listening to what Ruta was saying, so I'd like to offer you the choice of 2 different talks that we can do this morning. Because you've had Nigel being kind of pretty much straight at you and in your face, haven't you? In the nicest possible way, because it's meant to help you get to where you want to get to. So I can give you story A. We can talk all about my beautiful wife, Suzanne, my 5 lovely children, the house in the country, and a dog called Trevor. We can do that story. Or we can do, just tell us how it is, Steve. Don't worry about offending. We want to know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. Give us some ideas. So you can have story A, 5 kids, house in the country, beautiful wife Suzanne, and a dog called Trevor. Or you can have, just tell us which it is. Would you like story A or story B? B. Ha. Well, let's try and sport things a little bit. I've come prepared to tell you all about Trevor. Trevor's a lovely little boy. He's really great. But I don't think that's going to help you with where you want to go. I want to help you with your business. But we're going to need to do a couple of things. First one. Could you just come here a sec? Come on up. Thank you, that's what we need to do, go right back. Okay, all of you, I'd like you, this is, the difficulty we've got here, we're in the theatre, it's all nice and comfy, you've been sitting very still for very, very long and being attentive, and that's great. But now, as you're in the cinema, and you're starting to just kind of lay back and recline just a little bit, this next 40 minutes will take too long if you're going to sit and start to recline. How many of you, when you were coming here, did anyone come in by mistake, come into the cinema, thinking you were seeing Bond movie or something different? You'd be a shock if you've come to a business conference and thought you were going to watch the new Bond movie. Okay, so what I'd like to do is a couple of things. I want to try and check, A, that you've been listening to what Nigel's saying, which is great, but also that you're taking some of the detail and thinking about how you could apply it to your business. I don't have 20 euros. I've got 20 pounds.
I'll change it.
Well done, that man. Thank you. Nigel, you owe me 20 pounds. Okay, so what just happened? Think about this. What just happened then? What just happened? I've come all the way to Latvia to get mugged. I can do that in England just as easily. That's ridiculous. You took action. All the things that we're talking about today, all the things that you pick up on, the number one key is that you take action on what you learn, but also that you dare to do things differently, not just the same old way. Don't just comply. Try and find new ways that you can do things. I would like you now, if you would, this is going to be quite an experiment. I said to Nigel, do you think this would work as we're in Latvia? And he said, I don't know, Steve, but let's all have a laugh at your expense if it doesn't. But what I want to try and do, because you've been sitting down long enough, we're going to try a little bit of activity right now. Now, some of you, again, based on the animals, some of you have gone into mad panic mode. Because what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you, if you would, please, just all to stand. Everybody just stand up, put your books down, whatever you need to do. Everybody standing. And I'd like you to turn to the person on your left. Introduce yourself to the person on your left. If you're on the end of a row, it's going to be very difficult. Okay, this is... Okay, as this all goes on, everybody just pay attention a second. Because I'm at the front, you're here, it's going to get a little bit raucous in a moment or two. How many people here have children? Okay, you might want to try this exercise when you get home, just see if it works. As we're going through this exercise for the next couple of minutes, when time is up, I'm going to put my hand in the air, and I want you then to put, when you see me, put your hand in the air and stop talking. Is that clear? I'm not sure if this worked with your kids when you get home, but it's definitely worth a try. Okay, so when I said turn and introduce yourself to the person next to you, some of you went into meltdown and panic because it's outside of your comfort zone. And originally, when you sat down in a nice clear space, you thought you were fine. And then that weird person came and sat next to you. And you've had to discover that that person probably isn't as weird as you thought. Now you've spoken to them. Or maybe they are just as weird as you thought they were. Now they're sitting next to you. But here's what we're going to do. We're going to play a very quick game. This is very straightforward. And here's what we're going to do. Decide between the two of you which is A and which one of you is B. Decide, I'm A, you're B. You decide. It's not a tricky part. The lions definitely said, I'm A, you're B. I love how this works, Nigel. Okay. Here's the game. Remember, if my hand goes up, you put your hand up and stop. Okay. Otherwise, this is going to take all day, but we're going to do this in a few minutes. We've got just 30 seconds, and here's what you're going to do. I'll explain this slowly. A, you are going to point at something or someone, and you're going to name the thing you're pointing at. Got it? So you're going to point and name, and then point and name and point and name. B, your job is to count how many things that your A can point and name. Does that make sense? All understand the rules? It's very straightforward, but I want you to point and name. Okay, we're going to have 30 seconds, but keep an eye on me too, because after 30 seconds we're going to stop. Point and name. Okay, are you ready? The clock starts now. Go! Point and name. Point and name. And stop. And stop. How do they do? Great. Okay, let me just see some scores. How many did we get? How many? 16. 16 at the front. Who got more than 16? 24. Who got more than 24? Sir? How many? How many did you get? 27. Anyone more than 27? Any more than 27? 27 was the top. Okay, well done. How come some people got 12, some people got 27? So what we're going to do, B's, it's now your turn. How competitive are you? Let's see. Okay, so B's, we're going to nail the A's. We're going to beat the A's. Are you ready? Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to change the rules very slightly. I'm going to change the rules very slightly, so listen carefully. A, you're now going to be listening. B, you're doing the pointing. But here's the difference. B's, you've got to point and not say, and then point and name the thing you pointed at previously. Oh, listen to the challenge. Opportunity is nowhere, it's all over the place here. Okay, so, do you all understand the rules? Come Come on, Bs, let's show them what it's for. We've got 30 seconds to beat the A's. Are you ready? Go. Point, don't say, point, name. Five seconds. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. And time. And time. Okay, sit yourselves down. Thank you, sit down. Take a seat. So how did we do that time, Bees? I think 12 was about the lowest we got the first time round. Who got more than 12 this time? Okay. Who got more than 20? More 21. Who got more than 21? 23. 17. 70. 70. Whoa. Whoa, come up here a sec, would you? Any more than, sorry, any more than 70? Any more than 70? Please come on up. Who did it? You got more than 70? You were counting. Okay, this is really good, accountability. Who was doing the pointing and naming? Okay, would you come up a sec? Thank you. What was your name?
Julia.
Julia, how are you?
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too. We're going to have to get quite close now because you're going to have to talk into here so they can hear you.
Okay.
Would you explain to the people in the audience that got a miserable 10, 12 or 15, how did you manage to get 70?
Because I copied the idea from the partner.
Okay.
That he was using when he was the A and
And what was his idea?
So he was pointing at people and saying, this is a man, this is a woman, this is a man, this is a woman, or just...
Thank you very much. Take a seat. Yes, give her a round of applause. Here's my point, and the point of that exercise is you've got to think differently. You've got to think outside the box. That was an awkward statement last week when I spoke with a group of undertakers, funeral directors, and saying, think outside the box. But you've got to think differently. So what you did is, what you said was, I copied a different idea. Some of you don't want to copy an idea because you feel that's maybe cheating. But you can certainly emulate, and you can copy a great idea and make it your own. Not doing it the same way, but you can copy it, make it work. You got 70. Last week when I did this in London, someone got 172. But here's all they did. What was your name again? Julia. Here's pretty much what they did. And now all of you went into complicated mode. Immediately there was a challenge. As soon as I said point and don't name and point and then say, and I even gave you all sorts of visual clues, point and don't say and point and then say. Now some of you are getting the message here too, correct? Because what you did, you started to look at all sorts of complicated ways of completing a task rather than the simple thing. So it can very easily be point, don't say, point, say the previous thing. Julia, 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 Julia. How easy is that? It's a Christmas one. You can have some fun with people at a Christmas party somewhere. But my point is just twofold. One, Nigel and I both know that you can only retain as much information as your rear end can bear. And if you're sitting still for 45 minutes or an hour, it's going to get difficult. So I've just raised the energy a little bit for you guys so you can spend some time thinking about what we're going to talk about. So here's what I'd like to go on with for you now. A harsh reality. I spoke to a few people before we came in this morning and asked what business you're actually in. And may I ask you, what business are you in?
We're producing
Producing customised floor heating systems. Brilliant. That's not the business you're in. That's confusing. What business are you in? Programming. What's your name? Anna. Anna is in programming. No, you're not. No, you're not. But this will be a real dull 45 minutes if we keep this one up all the way around. Here's the reality. Are you ready for this? You're all in sales. If you're in business for yourself or working for a company, you are in the business of sales. If you're not, you may be a not-for-profit organisation. Even then, they have to make sales of some sort. I know lots of businesses around the world that are not-for-profit, but they don't mean to be doing that. Because if you don't accept that you're in sales, you're in for a very tricky ride. It can make your 6-year business not get to 7 if you don't recognise that your main business is in sales. You need to find the clients, generate the leads, fulfil those and deliver your product or service. But in there somewhere is sales. And here's the problem. Let's try some telepathy in Latvia. What are the words that you think of when you think of somebody who's in sales? Consultant? Okay. Let's think a little bit outside the box again. And let's be honest too. What are the words that you use to describe somebody who's in sales? Annoying, I got that one. What else did I hear? Pushy. We're doing this telepathically because I can feel the sleazy, slimy, pushy, arrogant. What else? Liar. What else? Come on, a partner. Okay, that's very polite and very nice. What other words do you think of? Here's the thing. I can get this telepathically. I feel all the pain coming at me. Because I know that what happens is if I ask you what business you're in and you're telling me we deal with underfloor heating, it's because what you don't want to do is you don't want to say, I'm in sales. But the fact is we're all in sales. We all have a role to play. There are 3 very distinct sales teams in all of your businesses. Whether you end up being a one-man or one-woman business or whether you're a multinational business, you have 3 very distinct sales teams in your organisation. You might want to write these ones down. I'm fine with people taking notes. Nigel will tell you off. I'm happy with this. You can have the regular team, the reluctant team, and the referral team. Most businesses don't have a strategy for that because most businesses haven't recognised that those teams all exist. But what I want to try and do with you in the next half hour or so is give you some slight change of mind on what being in sales looks like so that you can feel fine with it. But here's the challenge. When I think of being in sales, these are the kind of images that come to mind. You think of this person, or you think of this one, or worse yet, maybe this guy. Correct? That's what you think of when you think of someone being in sales. But this is 2015. The world has completely changed, and we're not going back. There was a piece of Latin that said caveat emptor, which was buyer beware. Nowadays, it should be caveat venditor, or seller beware. Because of the internet, the interwebby thing, in a second, if you're doing something wrong with what you do with your business, the world will know about it. But we now need to work out how can you get to more people more often and get your point across through the regular, the reluctant, and the referral team. The challenge is because people don't think they're in sales, they will try and do all sorts of things to boost their business rather than go and talk to clients. And one thing that I've seen repeatedly at different companies and countries is that what they'll do is if they're not making enough sales, not getting enough profit, what they'll do is rebrand. Do you know what rebranding is? Who knows what rebranding is? Okay. Rebranding in my book is what you do when you can't sell things. Let me give you an example. This is the Office of Government Commerce. This is a UK government-run department that wants to show to the world that they've got all the important matters firmly in hand. And they've got a tight grip on all the things that really matter to us. And they wanted to demonstrate that clearly, because if they didn't, they would lose their government funding. And so what they thought about is, rather than going and talking to clients, they thought, I know what we'll do. We'll rebrand, because that will save us going out and talking to people, right? So they actually spent 12,000 of our pounds on rebranding and coming up with a new logo. Would you like to see what they came up with? That. Genius. Does that now show you they've got all the important matters firmly in hand and that they know what really matters to us all? I don't know that it does. What if you took their new letterhead and you popped it on its side? Does that logo, does that show they've clearly, does that show clearly they've got all the important matters firmly in hand and they know what really matters to us? I would love to think they knew what they were doing, but I don't think they did. Someone's English is better than mine here. This just stands for, where's the focus? I know, some of you have been and studied English for too long. Where's the focus? What is it about you and what are you doing to focus on getting the right clients to come to you? Because there are universal truths in business that translate from geographical territory to different industries and sectors that will translate to your business too, but we all figure we've got our own unique challenges. The one thing that I absolutely know wherever I go around the world is that everybody thinks it's different here. I know that you'll tell us during the break. That's okay, Steve, but it's different here. I'd like to introduce you to George. I met George. You think this is a tough gig, Nigel? Let me tell you. I was in Athens to deliver a talk about boosting your sales and profits 2 days before the general election. Now, that was a tough gig. Because we know, it's not a secret, the Greek economy is not where they would like it to be. But here's an interesting scenario. Think about how this worked. I'm booked to go and speak at a conference and talk about boosting your sales and profits. And when I got there, I had a stark awakening, because I hadn't really realised just how bad things were. I was picked up at the airport by a driver, and as we drove towards the hotel, he was full of doom and gloom and despondency. It was crisis, the crisis, the crisis, all the way to the hotel, which started to give me panic about what am I going to talk about when I get to the conference. And when I arrived at the hotel, I said, this is great, I've got a day and a half before I actually go and speak. I'd love to go and do some sightseeing. I've not been to Athens before. And I told them I want to go sightseeing. And the hoteler said, yeah, that's perfect. If you get 100 yards up the road, turn right, turn left, you can get on the metro. Now, the metro is an underground train service in Athens. They said it's only €1.20, but it will take you to the centre of Athens where you need to be, and then you can go sightseeing. But were they listening to what I asked about? Listen to what Nigel was saying about listening to people. Did they listen to what I asked for? I explained that I'm actually a tourist and I want to go sightseeing, and they say for €1.20 you can go on the underground. Yeah, but I'm a man of the people, so I paid my €1.20 and went on the underground, and it was exactly what I thought it would be. It was dirty, it was dark, it smelt a bit. It wasn't the greatest place to be. But I did it, and I popped out the other end. Then I got a taxi back, and then I was trying to figure out what I should do. And then to my good fortune, in the afternoon, I went outside. There was a pretty obvious clue to the people there in Athens that I was a tourist. I had my map and my phone out. And as I've gone outside, I've waved down a taxi, and George has pulled up. George welcomed me into the taxi, and we were having a little chat about what I was doing there and how was I and what was happening. And I asked him to take me, if he would, to the Acropolis. I knew that I should go and look at the Acropolis. And then George absolutely saved the day for me. Here's how and what he did. As I got in, George has said to me, so Steve, you want to go to the Acropolis? Is there a reason you want to go now? Because the Acropolis is much better seen late in the afternoon, because the light hits it a certain way, and it's much better to go and see that time of day. I said, well, I'm going to the Acropolis because I know that's somewhere I should see, George. Where else should I go? He said, have you been to the coast? Have you been out to the coast? And most people miss that when they come to Athens. I said, no, I haven't. How would I get there, George? And what do you think George said? What George said is you can get the train, you can get the tube, or maybe you could have a taxi. And what George immediately did was he changed a €4.50 ride into a €65 ride by serving me better. Do you follow that? So he wasn't trying to trick me, he wasn't being a sleazy, in-your-face salesperson. What he did was to listen to what I wanted and then respond to my wants. Do you do that with your clients? Or if someone says, I want one of these, or I want this programmed, is that just what you do? Or do you look outside the box and think differently about what you could do for them? Because you need to think differently about what you're doing. And George turned that into a €65 ride, not the cheap one. But I've taken that into other places too, because what he did, as we went around during the day, we did end up at the Acropolis. And as George was sharing stories with me, one about this upserve, the other one was, as we looked at this building later in the day and the sun was shining on it beautifully, he's saying, why don't people realise in Greece, they're blaming the crisis on all the bad things, why don't they realise that they're not doing enough to get the business in? Are you doing enough with your business to get people to come to you? He said, look at the building. The reason that pillar is standing at the top is there's lots of things supporting it, not just one thing. He said a lot of businesses are just having one thing and thinking that will hold the business up. They go to a network meeting, they go to a conference, they've got their website going, and they think that one thing will do it. And again, I would urge you, in any economy, good, bad, or indifferent, you need to be doing lots of different things to make your business really fly and to support it properly. But one of the big lessons that I took from George was that he served me properly. Are you all familiar with the term upsell? This is an interactive part. Have you heard the term upsell? So if you sell someone this, you upsell them to the next product. One of the problems with upsell is if you're not in the regular team, you think upselling is pushy, sleazy, slimy, underhand sales tactics, and therefore you don't do it. I was working with a group of optometrists, so people that work with your eyes, back in the UK. And working with the optometrists, working with the owners of the businesses on a regular basis, they all understood things they could do to boost their business. And at one point they said, what we'd like you to do, Steve, is come and work with our sales teams, because we want the sales teams to understand what they could do differently. And as I was looking at the sales teams and thinking, these are really the reluctant sales team, because these are clinicians, these are people that work with optometry and eyes and exams. They don't think they're in sales for a minute, but the business is reliant on them selling more to more people. So I agreed that I would go and work with the optometry practices and work to deliver a sales course for them. But to do that, what I had to do was to go to 10 different practices to have 10 eye tests so that I could actually work out how they operated as a business. I wonder how often you actually inspect what you expect when people phone your office. Because I agreed the same scenario with each of these particular people, that I was moving into your area, I've been recommended that I come to you, I'd like to book an appointment because I've got some problems with my eyes and it's a bit blurry in my right eye. I had a cataract operation a few years ago and my eye is not that good. I'd like to come to your practice and have an eye test. So that was exactly what I set up at each place that I was going to go to, so I could benchmark them all. You understand? And then it started. So I've gone off on my road trip for 3 days to have eye tests. When did you last go for an eye test? Who's been for one? When they come in, it's better with, better without, better with, better without. So I'm going to go see 10 of those over 3 days. It wasn't the most fun I've ever had. But I've gone into the first one, and even the telephone appointments were different at each place, the way they handled it. And these are 10 of the top opticians in the UK. When I went in, I gave them all the details on the phone, but when I've walked in, the first person has said, "Can I help you?" I've arrived at a very small practice for an appointment at 10:30. It's 10:29 and this guy walks in. Do you think they could have known my name and were expecting me? I think so, definitely, but they didn't. We went through it and they said, "Which eye test would you like?" No, seriously. Now, but you laugh, and I wonder, in your own business, some of this might sound obvious here, but maybe you do some of the same stuff in your own business too. They've said, "Which eye test would you like?" I thought, well, I don't know. You're the expert, so I gave you the problems that I'm having. What would you suggest? And they said, well, we'll give you this eye test. It's only £29. We'll start with that, and then we'll see how we go. And I set myself up to say, whatever they would say to me, I would say yes. What did I say I was going to do? Yes. Come on, the Nigel yes bit. So I agree, I'll say yes to whatever they said. So I said, yes, I'll have that eye test. They did it, they wrote a prescription and sent me away. That was it. The afternoon, I went to another practice, and they've said the same thing. What eye test would you like? I said, I don't know. What would you suggest? We went through the same kind of routine. They sent me away. And so this went on until late in the day. I was at one place in the middle of the UK, and this time they had a USP. Do you know what a USP is? A unique selling proposition. They gave me a frothy coffee when I came in. They gave me a cappuccino. That was their thing. But they still didn't sell me anything and didn't help me properly. Day 2, day 3, and by day 3, I was all the way out near Wales, the edge of the UK, to go in for my 6th eye test in 3 days. And I've walked in, and this time, as I've walked through the door, they said, "Oh, Mr. Clark, we're expecting you." A bit Bond-like. "Mr. Clark, we're expecting you." So I've come in, and they said, "I hope you had a good journey. I hear you're moving into the area." I thought, I haven't practiced that, because I wasn't expecting it. No one else has asked. I'd completely forgotten that I was going to say that. We went through it, we sat down, and they said, "Your optometry person will be with you in just 2 minutes." And at that, Neelam Patel, the head optometrist, came and sat with me in the reception and said, "So Steve, tell me, you're having these problems with your eye. I'm a little bit concerned, but don't panic. You're seeing floaters and blurry vision, but given you're new to our practice, what we'd like to do is we'd like to give you a certain eye test where we can put you on the machine and see behind your eye and through the eye, and we check out all the detail to be sure your eye health is good. It's going to cost £89 rather than the cheaper exam, but is that okay?" And of course I said, yes. So we've gone in and we've sat down, and at this point, Neelam has come into the machine, and for me, when they do the eye tests, they're all a bit too close to your face for my liking. I just want to look round and give her a little kiss on the cheek, because we're right here. And she's looking in, twiddled some dials, And she looked up over the top at me. And she looked back in. And then she looked up again. Said, Mr. Clark, just give me a moment. And she left the room. I thought, Mr. Clark, 2 minutes ago I was Steve. What's happened? She's gone out, she came back in, literally within a minute, and said, now, Mr. Clark, don't panic. So what do you do at that immediately? Mr. Clark, don't panic. I've called the hospital, I've called A&E, the emergency department. They're expecting you now. Your retina is detaching. You know what the retina is? When your retina detaches from your eyeball, it falls away like wallpaper coming off a wall. Falls away slowly and it gathers speed and it falls off. And when your retina falls off, you're blind. And I'm thinking, silly woman, doesn't she know I'm just secret shopping? Surely she knows what I'm doing. But I went along with it and I went to A&E and I'm in there with the main doctor. And when you go to our hospitals in the UK, usually you go in, you sit down, you wait for 2 or 3 hours, then someone sees you. That's how it works. I've come in and they've said, Mr. Clark, come through. Straight in. And he's looked in. He said, OK, Mr. Clark, when did you last eat? I'm thinking, this sounds serious. This sounds like an operation coming up. I said, what's the problem? He said, your retina's detaching and we need to operate. I said, oh, I've got to come clean. I said, could this be anything to do with the fact that I've had like 6 eye tests in 2 days? And he looked at me and said, you've done what? 6 eye tests, 2 days, whoever would be doing that? And I said, look, I'm secret shopping for these optometrists. He said, no, 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 your retina's detaching, you need an operation. I've subsequently had 3 operations on that one eye, which hasn't been great, which makes these stairs very difficult, which is why I'm staying up here right now. But the long story short was that I then went to deliver, about 3 months later, went to deliver the training for these people. And I had about 60 of these very reluctant salespeople in the room. And on a Sunday night when we gathered for a drink before the training day, the people look at me and one by one they're saying, oh, we know you. You're that secret shopping fella. You came to our store a few weeks. Yep, that's me, absolutely. And then the next day when we started the training, I went through what had happened when I went secret shopping. And I explained that we came down to Essex and we came into your practice and this is what happened. And people were laughing and clapping. And I went through the next and the next and the next. And then when I said, and then I got to Hereford. I'm all the way up by Wales. And the whole audience started jeering and clapping, thinking I was going to rip into these people for poor service. But when I mentioned the word retinal detachment, you could have heard a pin drop in the room. Until one of the owners said, that's absolutely disgusting. We should all have the equipment to be able to detect that. I said, no, Gavin, that's not disgusting. What's disgusting is you'd have me go blind for the sake of £40. Because your staff were not prepared to sell me not 29, but £89 worth of exam. You've all got the equipment. That's what's disgusting. And their problem and the challenge, which came to me like a light bulb after thinking about George, was that the reason they weren't is they thought they had to upsell me to the bigger exam to spend more money. When in fact what we came up with was a different term, which was upserve. And when we got these people to realise they could serve me better, and they weren't serving me correctly if they weren't giving me the right product or service, it massively changed the results. At Gavin's practice, one small optometry practice put almost £110,000 of extra business into their business in just 3 months by upserving, not upselling. Does that make sense? So I'd urge you to think about how can you serve your clients better. Stop thinking about selling. You don't have to be that in-your-face salesperson. Look at how you can serve people better. Here's the one that I'd like to do. I'd like to write down, if you've got pen and paper out, I would like you now just to write down the names of 3 people that you know you should have called by now, but for some reason you haven't done it. 3 people that could help you with your business, to move your business forwards. Because you've got this regular, reluctant team, and some of you are so reluctant that you think picking up the phone is not your job. But there are people that you know you should have called, and for some reason you haven't done it. I would like you just now to write down 3 people that you should have phoned and you haven't done it. I'll be quiet for 10 seconds while you just write down those 3 names. And everyone can be doing this. Because whether you're the chief executive or the salesperson or you're in marketing, there are people you could call that will help move your business forward. Some of you immediately thought 3. I could write 23 with my eyes shut. Others thought, I don't have to phone people, it's not my job. But even if you're in finance, someone said to me the other week, oh, but we're in finance, we don't do that. I said, well, who do you phone? We call people to chase them for money. I said, well, that must be fun. Every day chasing people and moaning at people for not paying. How about you pick the top 10 clients and phone them up first thing in the morning and say, just call to say thank you. You know, people are always phoning and chasing. I just want to say thank you because you're lovely to do business with. How do you think that felt to that person in finance to make that kind of call to start their day off? How do you think it felt to be the client for someone to phone up and just say thank you? Now, if you're not writing, it's for one of two reasons. Either you're out of ink or you're delusional. Because all of us can find people to call. And I would urge you to think about each day finding the way to be able to call 3 people on purpose, you know who you're going to call, and talk to them. It could be people that you connect. I don't mean phone them and say, are you ready to order yet? Are you ready to order yet? Are you ready to order? I'll give you 20% off if you order now. That's not the kind of thing. That's old school bad sales stuff. Think about someone that you know and see if you could connect them to someone else. There is a thing called the law of reciprocity, where people want to reciprocate if you help them. But 3 people a day. The miracle of miracles that some people realise is on your telephones, there is a button that you can press that will dial out. You can actually dial out to reach people, not just wait for phone calls. People that I talk to all the time in business are sitting aggressively, waiting for the phone to ring, thinking they've done all their marketing, people surely will call us now. But you need to be taking some proactive action on calling people each day. And the way that I would suggest you do this is to make sure you've got a plan as to who you're trying to call, but calling 3 people a day and setting the time aside to do it. One thing that we've all got in common here in the room is we've only ever got 24 hours in a day. Would you agree? So how is it some people get much more done than others? How does that work? It's because they're doing things on purpose and they've got a plan. If you could try, are you familiar with REM sleep? Rapid eye movement. When you go to have a good night's sleep, you go into a deep rejuvenating sleep and then back out. And during the night, your sleep goes through this pattern. Deep rejuvenating sleep and back. The same is true during the day. And you've all got time during the day when you're at your peak performance. You need to find that time and set aside 90 minutes where you're uninterruptible, that you can do work on your business to take you forwards. That will make all the difference when you're planning and making it happen. The other lesson that George taught me, a couple of things that he gave me here too, was that as we were in Greece and looking at various items, he was saying they believe it's the crisis, it's the problem is the pricing and the government and all these problems. And he showed me in one square in the centre of Athens, they sell lots and lots of olive oil. And they've got olive oil in big drums and big cans and they're selling it cheap. He said, come with me, Steve. And he took me round the corner to another little shop, a boutique shop, that had much smaller bottles, beautifully packaged. He said, these bottles outsell those 10 to 1. Not by the volume, but by price and profit. Because these people are selling it to the right people that have got the money to pay for it. These people are trying to sell lots of olive oil to all the people in Athens, and all they can do is cheap, cheap, cheap. These people sell to your Harrods and Fortnums and Masons and all around the world, and they're charging the right price and making a good profit. But the people selling it cheap think it's the market pressure. To show you how this works literally around the world, last Christmas, I spent Christmas time in Australia. Went to Australia and New Zealand. And this is a busker in the streets of Australia, in Sydney. And Tom Ward was amazing. He could have beaten anyone on the talent shows on TV because he was playing the Spanish guitar and the music was astonishing. And if you look at the guitar, I'm not a musician, but if you look at that guitar, does it look like it should even play? It looks like bullet holes in it. It's been battered to pieces. But he was playing the most beautiful Spanish guitar. And I stood mesmerised in the centre of Sydney listening to this guy playing. I thought there's something wrong with the picture because he was busking for change and he was selling CDs for $10. Now, I know you've just seen the sign that says $20. Let me explain why that happened as well. Because as I was talking to Tom, I'm listening to this and thinking it's fantastic, it's beautiful. But as I say to everyone, put your prices up. You've got to be charging what you're worth. Are you doing that? I listened to Tom, and even though I was on holiday, I've walked up and I've shook his hand and said, Tom, that was amazing. That was just beautiful. The sound that you make with the guitar is incredible. I couldn't help myself. And I said, Tom, put your prices up. You're not charging what you're worth. But look at this. This is what he did. He laughed a little bit like some of you do if I suggest you put your prices up, because it's not going to happen. And Tom looked, he said the same thing. He said, look around, look, all the other buskers. They're all busking for change, and they're all selling their CDs for $10. I said, but Tom, look around. There's not one of them playing your guitar. There's none of them playing the music like you play it. Charge what you're worth. Are you charging what you're really worth? Because he was describing for me, a busker in the streets was describing market pressures. I said, Tom, let's try it. And we took his sign, which on the other side says $10. And we flipped it over and we wrote CDs, $20, or 3 for 30. Tom went for an upserve as well. He was going to serve people better, let them have more CDs. He went back on the guitar and played another 45-minute set. And when I went back to visit him after I finished my shopping, I said, Tom, how did it go? And he shook my hand and just said, I think I owe you a drink. He doubled his income in the next 40 minutes, playing on the same street, playing the same guitar and playing the same music. He just started asking for the money that it was worth. Do you charge what you're worth? Don't succumb to market pressures and just say it has to be cheaper all the time. You will have products that people will pay more money for if only you've got them. But also look at how broad the market is and how things change and how Tom Ward now sells music around the world. But he's a busker on the streets because the world has completely changed. Does anyone recognise this particular scene? From? No, this is Vatican City, you're right. This is St. Peter's Square in Rome. This is when the Pope was elected in 2005. This was the street scene in 2005. There's the same scene just 8 years later. Let me put that back just so you can see it. 2005, 2013. Those are not candles they're holding up. That's the word being spread instantly. You can do the same thing if you'll use your referral team so that people can share what you do with other people. You must have a strategy for making sure you can make those things work. And in order to do it, what you need to do is to have, I've used this just as an image for you to understand, a sat-nav. We all understand what a sat-nav is. When I was trying to put a business plan program together, I had all sorts of convoluted stories around my flying and what you do to get off the ground. And my wife was saying, Steve, just tell people about a sat-nav. Because you know that if you have to go from this place to somewhere 200 miles away, you're very likely going to Google it and see where the place is on a map. But then you might punch the postcode in or the area into a sat-nav and follow instructions. Correct? And then, gents, when the sat-nav tells you to turn left but we know it's right, we just go our way, which is what happens. But then it will bring you back online. In your business, you must have a simple sat-nav for your business to keep you on purpose and on direction and knowing what you're doing. Knowing why those 3 people to call are the right people. Knowing that if you can put your prices up, what price can you get to? That's what's really important. I'm going to urge you to do one last thing with me. This is a challenge. Who's up for a challenge? Seriously, who's up for a challenge? Come on. It's a bit scary. It's not one of Nigel's challenges. They're too challenging for some of you. I know. We're not going to get you up again just now, but we'll do that later. This was something that I saw when I was in Jaipur in India. The traffic out here can be quite tough. I know that some of you got caught in traffic this morning. This is the traffic jam you get if you're in Jaipur. Don't tell me Latvia's got bad traffic. There's no elephants coming the wrong way down the street. There's no cars and lorries coming at you down the same traffic way. But here's the thing. They don't complain. So my challenge to you for the next 7 days, starting right now, is no complaining. Tough one? You've got 7 days of no complaining. Not about the traffic, not about the fact that you've been sitting here for a couple of hours and your backside sore, not about the coffee, not about the business, nothing. Children, work colleagues, no complaining for 7 days. But I know some of you inside 2 minutes now will be complaining. That's okay. But you have to rewind, set the clock and start again. If you can get through 7 days without complaining, your world will change. I've put onto my website, there's a separate page there with the /Latvia. The slides are there to remind you of what we've spoken about, but also some of the points that I've been sharing with you, if you need a reminder, are on that page. You can go and download them for free. But it is, look at who your market is actually really about. Let's look at putting your prices up where you can and hold firm with them. Call 3 people a day. Have the business plan, know what you're doing. Upserve, don't just upsell. And don't complain about what's going on. I know that wherever I go, I come across 3 different groups of people. There are people that will make stuff happen. There are people that will watch stuff happen. And there are those that wonder, what happened. Don't get caught being the last. I wish you every success with your business. Thank you very much for having us. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Frankly speaking, we are absolutely out of time. We don't have time for any questions, but I'll take the responsibility and allow the audience to ask 2 questions. 2 jautājumus mēs varam ātri Stīvam uzdot, ja ir. Kundze ceļ roku, lūdzu.
Steve, can you mention 4 things what is important in order to thrive? We talked today about DNA, and can you find the DNA for success? 4 things.
4 things for success. Having a focus. So when I put my WTF, where's the focus? You need to know what you're focusing on and why you want it. If you know why you want to go to work in the day or why you want to set your business up, you must better dig into why you're doing it in the first place. I know that lots of people will get to a point in the day and think, yeah, why am I doing this? But it's really important you get locked into what your passion and your enthusiasm is for with the business or your products or service. Be on focus, so have a very simple plan. Again, if you like it, you can download from my website a single 1-page plan that you can follow. Be on purpose and have the right attitude and action. And it's all about, as Nigel was saying earlier on, decide to do something and do it. Take action, massive action, and then change it as you need to go along. Focus, action, and passion. Does that help?
Hopefully.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lūdzu, 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 lūdzu.
I want to ask you one question. My question is very interesting. I can ask in English. Maybe you can translate.
I'll try to do my best.
Kā jūs pingvīnam pārdotu ledu?
How would you sell the ice to a penguin?
Ice to a penguin or ice. Well, here's the thing. This is 2015. In old school sales days, there was you can sell ice to Eskimos or sand to the Arabs, are things that people used to talk about, people being in sales. For me, those days are gone. Because we're now so connected as a world, you can't just sell at people and hope they'll buy. You need to find what their pain is and what their problem is, and then they'll buy from you. Personally, I couldn't sell ice to Eskimos. I think they've got enough. That's the honest answer. So to be honest about what people want, if you can find their pain or their problem, and then you can fix it, people will buy. People seem to find and look for too many complications in business when it's really very simple. It's not always easy, but it's very simple. But find the pain that someone's got, and they'll move away from pain. As human beings, we're driven away from pain and towards pleasure. I know there's a group of people that are driven towards pleasure they get from pain. That's a different audience altogether. But you need to think about what pain have people got and how can you solve that problem, and that's what they'll buy.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Paldies, Stevam. Varam vēlreiz sarīkot aplausus. Thank you.